Hello, good afternoon. My name is Devin Hanna. I am the co-offensive coordinator and freshman offensive coordinator at Westview High School in Arizona. It's been a while since I put out a video. Probably, I think I saw it was like last year. But I got an idea that I wanted to go through a couple different ways to teach progression. So the big thing is that in modern college football, defenses are getting more creative and taking away, traditional progression. Um, I have three ways that I use teaching progression in the passing game. Uh, I think all of them are important, but they allow you to still have like structure within that, and it's kind of when you're building a passing game, you can focus on some of the principles behind it. It doesn't have to necessarily be these same concepts, but when you're putting in pass plays, you can use some of these principles and come up with your own routes and whatnot. So, anyways, let's get started. All right. So the first thing that we're going to go over is the full progression reads. This uses the entire field generally. Um, very focused on just reading out the full field. You're going through a certain route first. So, like I have here, where it goes X to H to Z to T to Y, you're basically going through and looking at those progressions first. Um, you have a predetermined guy that you're going first, and you have a predetermined guy you're going second, third, fourth, fifth. Um, I have some examples here. I'll show you the concepts whenever they're drawn up in a second. So the benefit is that it can be run versus any coverage. Um, a lot of the defenses they like to get creative in like post snap rolls or sending blitzes or whatever. As long as we're going through the progression, then we can kind of go through and like if there's a play that might be where they're blitzing, you can kind of go to three or four, kind of progress further along as your blitz control routes. So focuses on initial route and then a replacement route. So this could be like a crossing route to where you're running across a Mike linebacker's face. He's going to be chasing horizontally, and then you're going to throw a dig behind him. And then um, we would have like a trail route possibly. So you'll see that drawn up here in a second. The big thing is here is that we're throwing to grass and not reading people. So this is kind of more traditional air raid stuff. You're basically finding the opening and throwing in that space. Now, I ain't going to call them cons necessarily. There's not necessarily cons, but there are things to consider with each of these progressions. And so I've kind of integrated each for each progression, have something that we need to consider. This could require throwing into some tight windows. Obviously, if you're trying to throw a crossing route and then he's trying to carry the crossing route for a second, like you got to really zip the ball in and get it behind his head before he passes it on to another linebacker. So that's something to consider. Uh, there's really good linebackers at all levels. So, I mean, they play it differently, and some can be a little bit more aggressive in chasing like the crossing routes, and then some can pass on pretty good. So, those windows may not necessarily be open. You just got to be smart with being able to throw on time. So that goes to progression B on that level B. The windows will be very short amount of time, they'll be open. So making sure we throw on time, understanding where those windows will be at. I think that that's the most important thing. And then lastly, they need excellent pass pro because we're talking a full progression 1 to 3 to 4 to 5. We're already at, well, technically, we're already at 5 seconds pretty much if we're giving it a second per route. Um, just quick way to look at that. You definitely need very good pass pro to be able to do the full progression. Hopefully, you don't need to go through all five, but you can hopefully by four get through uh, the read that you want to make. So that's a full progression read. NFL does it a lot now with all the rolling coverages, with the spending down. They start in two high and then they roll to one high. Seen at the high school level. And I'll say this: I'll give credit to a lot of the defensive coordinators here, even at the freshman level here. It's like they've definitely gotten very creative in getting uh, like their split coverages and whatnot. So speaking of, um, I'll be going over that on the next progression. But here's my trail concept. I forgot I had this up. I thought I was going to the next one. But anyways, here's your trail concept. So this is basically a drive concept, and then I have a basically a trail route by the H to where he's going to come back. He's going to run like an arrow, and then basically come back and zip it back, kind of in the intermediate window. So we're hoping to catch like the Sam linebacker chasing, or he'll go too far inside. Like he'll pass it off, and then he'll kind of sit right here, and we'll have that window, that huge window, because the Mike and all them, they're chasing all this. It depends. I mean, we may be able to get it out by the second progression, but we have that trail route as a third option, and then have it kind of like a flash fake look where the T will go to the flat. So that's kind of example of a full progression. Here's the next one. So this is a mesh concept. This is kind of like traditional mesh. This is the Hal Mummy mesh, is what I call it. Basically here, we have the X isolated out wide. Technically, he's actually the first progression here. What I'll tell the quarterbacks is, you see any type of press or man or something like that, he's within 5 yards. We're off of this. This is a pre-snap, honestly. So we just kind of get off of this very quickly, and then we go down to the T as our first. So we work basically down X to T, and then we read the mesh. Ideally, we're going to probably look for this Y, since he's coming across in our line of vision anyway, because here's what's going to happen is that what makes this kind of a replacement is, so there's a Mike linebacker right here. I know I don't have him drawn up, but basically, if it's man, he's going to basically trail this T right here. And even in other cases, the same linebacker may be here, and he's going to trail the T. So then basically the Y is going to cross the Mike linebacker's face, and then basically he'll have this window here to sit down. I know I don't have it necessarily like drawn up like the traditional, like where you can sit in zone or whatnot. You can have that built in. And then obviously the backside would be the backside mesh, which he can also sit. And then we have the backside arrow. So that's a full progression of what you would teach with, traditional mesh. The two back mesh is what I call it. So Hal Mummy mesh. All right. Anyway, so back what I was talking about with so defenses do all the split progression, like the split coverages and whatever. This is kind of the counter to that. This is what I call the split progression read. So this might be a little bit more of like kind of what you would see in a little bit more older passing games too, is that you're basically going to read the coverage and basically determine like what side you go to. So this is when you're building like your passing game to have one side be a one high beater and then the other side being a two high beater. So benefit, actually, let me go through. So we have the snag concept I have here. Technically it could fall into other categories, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to introduce it here in the split progression read. And then I also have a Y cross concept that I also have a split progression read on as well. So benefits, you'll be able to isolate a side. So it almost kind of blends into the last progression I have, where isolating a defender. And you'll just basically read 1 to 2, basically, or 1 to 2 to 3. I'm generally one of those that likes to release the back into routes. Not always, but if we're getting really pressured, he may stay in and then check swing later. But the good thing is this gives the quarterback a lot of freedom. It can attack both one high and two high coverages. And Back on the quarterback getting the choice, it could also just be for safer throws. We can go to a certain side and be able to manage the game a little bit better. Ideally, for like really tight game or whatever, I would just say don't force the ball if we're ahead, obviously, and then uh, you get a little couple different options. With you'll see how I have it drawn up. Things to consider. Especially at the high school level, quarterback can choose wrong. So they may see depth a different level. They may not quite understand quarter safety, middle field safety, all that. So they have their eyes on the wrong place. Then that kind of hurts the play significantly at the beginning of the play. So, and like I said, with some of the defenses, they do the roll post snap. That can definitely cause some challenges because then that goes back to the thing the quarterback can choose wrong. So he sees two high pre snap and then they roll to one high. Then he gets his look to the two high snap, two high side, but then really they're rolling one high. So then that can definitely be tricky. You definitely have to get the ball out quickly in that situation before that safety can like roll down into the zone that he's supposed to defend short. Yeah, the other thing to consider is there's no easy check down really because you're going to be reading one side. So again, you're going to have two routes or three routes or even two routes and two routes. And ultimately, if you don't have those, then you're gonna have to improvise. Hopefully, you have a fast QB. Otherwise, we'll just have to get out and throw it away. So I have a couple of the plays here. So this is what I like to run. This is a snag concept right here. You basically, so on the right side, that's our snag concept. You really like this versus one high coverage. So safety's in the middle of the field, so he's going to be having a tough time to. I just basically say, and he's in the middle of the field, he's going to have a tough time defending this corner out. So basically, we're going to look at isolating two people to defend three routes, basically. Not really going to count the mic in there. I mean, we're going to assume that the X really sits down and doesn't go too far inside. So then basically, we're reading the Sam linebacker. Sam linebacker goes to flat. Then we can throw that. We can throw behind his head. Otherwise, if he vacates and kind of walls off the corner route, or whatever, we can just throw the quick check down. Backside, something I just saw a lot on my film when I was self-evaluating. I actually had this backside open a lot when I call this play, and they just happened to be in too high coverage. Um, this is a really good play to isolate the will backer. Will backer drops, then you can throw the little arrow route, and then if the will linebacker is kind of staying, then we can start throwing it right behind his head because we're assuming too high coverage, right? So this is going to be a quarter half safety. You're going to really have to bend it like a bang eight and to run it like very flat to the middle of the field, but we're going to have that opening because there's no middle safety there because we're reading too high coverage. So that's something that I really like. We did actually throw that in a game one time last year. And like I said, very good concept, very versatile concept. But like I said, when you get to defenses that start rolling different coverages, then that could be a problem. So here's a Y cross concept out of this. It's going to be a little bit confusing on this one. You would think like when I was studying this concept, this actual post and Y cross concept is actually very good versus a one high coverage. So they call that the Yankee concept. So Yankee concept to the boundary. So basically, it's basically reading like a divide. So obviously, if the one high safety in the middle of the field, he's dropping vertical, then we can throw this cross bender across his face. But if the one high safety starts chasing the crosser, then we basically have the middle field wide open. So I really like that. And then on the boundary side, we have a bunch concept. Basically, X is going to be running inside release. He's going to get inside the back, inside the Sam backer, and then go over the mic. So basically, right off of his hip, we're going to go right up the seam, and then we're basically running a corner route. So versus a too high coverage, um, basically, we're going to anticipate basically reading the corner here, and obviously this is your traditional smash. I really like this one. Typically in bunch sets, I've seen that corners are a little bit more conservative. They don't really know like who's going to be going deep, who really to keep eyes on. So they just kind of a little bit more or less sit in their zone, and then they can probably play in between, but you can really hit this quick. I have it drawn up here, but basically a 4-step speed out, or if he gets really aggressive, we get really good completions on this. Then we can start leveraging uh, the corner route behind him, and then really start throwing to the numbers over here. So that's the Y cross concept. Like I said, you get the Yankee concept backside if it's one high. If it's too high, then you start reading the corner on that. Sam Backer is going to have a tough time defending this because one, if he's like pressed up on the X, he's going to be forced inside anyway. So he's going to have his hips inside and then try to get out to this flat route. It's going to be very tough. So, um, all right, here is the next one. I forgot to parentheses at the top, but it's basically the triangle progression. This is almost kind of like thinking one half side, and you're basically isolating like one or two people. So this is what most people treat as quick game. So um, basically, I call it just when you're thinking about geometry, we're basically reading the triangle of the zones. So basically, we're reading 10 yards downfield at the top, and then we're reading the flat route that's below that, and then we're reading kind of an alley. So it kind of makes like a right triangle. And basically, from there, you're going to be basically predetermining what side you're going to read. So, um, and I also said it's going to kind of isolate one defender. You're really reading the leverage on which one you like to really throw that one. So, I have the curl concept and Y cross concept, or the Y stick concept. And the other benefit is that you don't quite need to have as much pass pro. It's a very very quick game steps. It's gonna be 1-2 ball basically. You're basically reading like the first two steps of whoever you're reading, and basically, if he's working vertical, like it's a like a post curl flat, like or whatever they call it, seam curl flat or whatever. So they're going back vertical, then they're not going to be able to defend the flat. So something to keep in mind though is that when you're starting to see press coverage, I'll go over that actually on when I get over the concept. Things to consider. What I've seen is because a lot of this also blends into RPO game, but defensive coordinators are starting got smart, and they know uh, that on some of the things, if you run this enough, that they'll basically know that we're isolating one defender. So basically, they're going to basically replace that guy, and he's going to go flat, and then we're going to throw the stick route, and then the Mike backer will be there or something. Once if you watch enough film, teams will be able to do that and replace the guy that you're reading. Other things to consider, you just got to understand leverage. Um, if you're I think leverage is decent to understand, but obviously, not everyone can probably understand like 5 or 6, because you have to treat the time that the ball gets there with whatever you're running. So throwing on time and throwing with good zip on the ball. The other thing that kind of sucks with this is it can be very tight windows if it's man coverage. So honestly, it's one of those things where I might not really want to run this triangle progression is what I call it. if they're in man. Certain route concepts, definitely you can. Specifically, anything that was a stopping route is what I call, like the Y stick and the curl. Basically, those aren't very good versus man. You could probably run like the old, 5 yard out with a go route on the outside. That might be able to be good, but uh I mean, ultimately, then it comes, well, if they're playing man, they feel confident about their athletes beating our athletes. So that's something definitely consider as well. So I isolated this down to one side. Obviously, um, how I treat a triangle half field read is that we're going to basically read the concept to a field or a boundary side. So this is a triangle read right here. So we're gonna say that the Mike, then maybe if they're in man or something, we basically have the Mike linebacker. He's gonna basically trail the T on this. Then we can start hitting this behind him if it's a blitz or even if he's blitzing. So he's blitzing right here. We can really get this hot route here. Primarily, we're gonna be reading the Sam backer. Assumably, curl concept is very good versus cover three because this corner here has to drop in a deep third um, because middle field safety definitely can't cover the middle field and the deep third. So basically, you're isolating the Sam backer. You're basically reading the triangle. So it kind of goes like this. So you go one, two, and then three over here. It's kind of a right triangle, or I don't know. It looked like a right triangle in principle, but basically that's where we're at. So um, isolate a guy. It's just 1-2 ball. Very very easy, very quick to teach. Okay. And then you got your stick concept. This is going to be more good versus cover two. So if they're in cover two, look, the corner is actually going to take this flat route. The Sam is going to actually take this right here. So then we have to hit the whole shot here. That's where we got to kind of understand, like probably around. So he's going to sit probably right here. And then you have the guy right here. There's going to be a high safety kind of up here off the pitcher. You basically have to throw the whole shot between this guy and this guy, and you have to hit it really close to the sideline. So that's it for cover two. But otherwise, you're basically running inside release here, and then basically finding a spot between the Sam and the Mike. This is where again the Mike can really get over and try to take away this curl route, this stick route, while the Sam goes wide with it. That's why you got to really throw on time. So again, this kind of focuses on the triangle. You got a deep one right here. You got a spot right here. You got a run right here. So that's a triangle right there. So all right. That is going to conclude the video. So we went over the full field progression, we went over the split field progression, and we went over the triangle game progression. So hopefully you can incorporate all these with your quarterbacks. I really recommend trying to incorporate some kind of route concepts to where they know all of them. Definitely help at the college level and definitely help mix things up at the high school level as well. So thank you guys. Have a great day.